Hey, what's up, basketball fans? Today we're going to go over some of the most common myths and misconceptions and breaking down why more dudes should watch women's basketball. If you haven't heard, Caitlin Clark has been taking the NCAA by storm. The Iowa guard just dropped a 40-piece to lead the Hawks to a Big Ten title. Clark has been hitting ridiculous shots from Curryland all year, creating the buzz around the women's game it so desperately needs. Part of why women's basketball isn't as mainstream is because it doesn't get the coverage that it deserves. But that's changing. Players like Caitlin Clark, Liz Cambage, and Candace Parker are putting women's basketball on the map and propelling the game into the spotlight of mainstream media. One of the biggest complaints of women's basketball is the lack of dunking. The average height of a WNBA player is 6 feet tall, compared to an average NBA player at 6'7". And on average, NBA players have a vertical 8 to 9 inches taller than WNBA players. And while it's true that there are much less dunks in the WNBA and the women's college level, there's more that goes into this. When we see a player in the NBA dunking, we don't see the preparation, years of explosive and vertical training. We don't say, oh, look, it's a man dunking. So when we talk about a woman dunking, we act like it's out of the ordinary. If we encourage women to dunk at a younger age and provide them with the same resources and opportunities as their male counterparts, we would see a lot more high flyers in women's basketball. But there's more to the game of basketball than just dunking. Even some of our favorite NBA players and former MVPs in Steph Curry and James Harden aren't celebrated for their dunking ability. The thing women's basketball lacks the most is coverage. We don't watch the NBA because of the dunks. We watch because of the storylines, the drama, the teams and players that are supposed to be good and then they stink. And like a NASCAR wreck, we can't look away. The underdog story, the blockbuster trades, all of it. Most people don't get natural exposure to women's basketball, and they never get a chance to become a fan. WNBA center Monty McGee Stafford said it best when she said, "It's like buying a pair of scissors that needs to be opened with a pair of scissors." That's women's sports coverage. And it's not just basketball. That's what it's like. It's like no one wants to watch the NBA. No one can find our fucking games. If you focus on the ratings, if you base their importance on their perception, you're missing the point. With a new WNBA collective bargaining agreement finalized in January of 2020, the perception of women's basketball is slowly starting to change. With more games being broadcast on ABC, ESPN2, and ESPN+, players are finally getting a platform on a national broadcast. But this CBA still has its downsides. The New York Liberty just made headlines when they received a league record $500,000 fine for providing chartered flights to their players, which violates the CBA agreement, which requires players to fly commercial flights to every away game in economy class. Or the fact that the WNBA season is only 4 months long with no off-season pay, leading many players to play overseas in hopes for more lucrative contracts. Like Diana Taurasi, who makes 14 times more overseas than what she makes on a WNBA court. Which leads to stories like this one, where star center Brittney Griner has been detained on weed charges while playing in Russia since she only makes $200,000 a year in the WNBA. You hear the same criticisms made against women's basketball over and over. Women don't watch women's basketball, so why should men? And even if there are female fans, men won't watch women's basketball in general. That same tired argument that women have to support women's sports lacks nuance and understanding, especially when it's mostly men in decision-making roles in the media. And it's also men that have been conditioned not to value women's sports the same way as men's sports. If we give women the same platform and support as men, the potential for women's basketball and women's sports in general will skyrocket. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content.